This video is brought to you by Saraswati Vidyalaya Union. And hi, this is Prapti. Today we are going to study chapter 12 photosynthesis from standard 11. From that we are going to study about the C3 pathway. Now let's study in detail.
Hello. See that in the last lecture we have seen about the relationship between the dark and the light reaction. Okay, in the light reaction we have already seen about the cyclic photophosphorylation, non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Okay, now today we are going to study about the dark reaction. In this dark reaction, so we are going to study first thing, that is about the Kelvin cycle. So this information I have already given related to the dark reaction. So in that Kelvin cycle, because this Kelvin cycle which is discovered by the scientist Melvin Kelvin. So in 1954 this scientist discovered this Kelvin cycle. This cycle, it is also known as the C3 pathway. Afterward I will explain you why it is known as the C3 pathway. In this cycle, this process completed in stroma. In the chloroplast, in stroma, this process completed. Okay. Now here in this process, so for this purpose, for this experiment, so this Melvin Kelvin scientist he got the Nobel Prize also. Okay. So this Melvin Kelvin scientist discovered this cycle. So he studied with the help of unicellular organism. So what he find out ki there is the formation or the synthesis of the glucose molecule takes place. But that synthesis of the glucose molecule is by what? By the cyclic manner. Okay, there are various changes, various steps are involved. So, but that steps are, so by that step there is the formation of glucose takes place. Okay, but that glucose takes place that produces in this stroma. And just now I told you ki that Kelvin scientist got Nobel Prize in 1961. So this scientist got his Nobel Prize. Okay, now let's see about this C3 pathway. So this C3 pathway which is discovered by the scientist Kelvin Melvin, in this C3 pathway, why it is known as the C3? First we will see that. Why this cycle, why this Kelvin cycle is known as the C3 pathway? Because in this cycle, the first stable compound which is present, that first stable compound that is known as the phosphoglyceric acid. And this phosphoglyceric acid, so which having the 3 carbon compounds. You can observe here, it having the 3 carbon compound. That's why it is known as the C3 pathway. Because first stable compound having the 3 carbon compounds. Okay. Now here, this pathway which is completed in the 3 steps. So the first step is there, that is known as the carboxylation. First step, that is known as the carboxylation. Second step, that is known as the reduction. Okay, but here remember this one, this third step get divided into the 2 subtypes. So there are too many steps are there. First one, so that is synthesize or synthesize. The next one is there, that is known as the regeneration. All these are the steps in what in the C3 cycle. Now see here, carboxylation, first step. Okay, reduction, second step. Synthesis, third step. And regeneration, that is the fourth step. Okay, so like these are the steps. So here what happened, here, so in the stroma there is a presence of rubisco biphosphate. So whenever that stomata get open, so that carbon dioxide, that atmospheric carbon dioxide enters into the stroma, enters into that leaves. So then that carbon dioxide combines with the rubisco biphosphate. After combining to the rubisco biphosphate, so then there is a formation of first stable compound, and that first stable compound which is known as the phosphoglyceric acid. Then this phosphoglyceric acid undergoes reduction with the help of these ATP as well as NADPH, and it forms this as well as NADP. Okay, for this process, so here if you observe carefully, so here, so there are requirement of 12 ATPs and 12 NADP used. So from that there is a formation of ADP, inorganic phosphate, and nicotine and trinucleotide phosphate. Okay, now here the third step is there, that is known as the synthesis. In that third step, after the reduction here, that phosphoglyceric acid undergoes reduction. After the reduction, it forms the phosphoglyceraldehyde. There are total 12 molecules of phosphoglyceraldehyde. So few molecules of phosphoglyceraldehyde convert into the dihydroxyacetone phosphate and few remains as it is. So then whatever the remaining phosphoglyceraldehyde molecules are there, so it shows the synthesis. Synthesis means what? The formation. Actually in this C3 process there is a formation of glucose takes place. The glucose is formed. So here this phosphoglyceraldehyde, so it forms the fructose 1,6-diphosphate. Then fructose 1,6-diphosphate undergoes dephosphorylation. Means there is a removal of one phosphate group from that. So after removal of one phosphate group, it forms the fructose 6-phosphate. So then there is a process takes place that is known as the isomerization. After the isomerization, that fructose 6-phosphate convert into the glucose 6-phosphate. Then the next step takes place that is known as the dephosphorylation, means removal of one phosphate group. So from that glucose 6-phosphate, one phosphate group removes and it forms the glucose. So see that there is a synthesis of glucose, means that glucose is formed by this Rubisco biphosphate. So this is the reaction. In this reaction, this is that like this the glucose is produces. That glucose is formed in this process. But remember this one, there are a few molecules of phosphoglyceraldehyde. So it undergoes regeneration. Okay, there are various steps takes place, and by that step, so this undergoes regeneration. Okay, you can see that phosphoglyceraldehyde convert into the erythrose convert into the pseudoheptulose convert into the Rubisco monophosphate. And here the process is of dephosphorylation takes place, and by that there is a formation of Rubisco biphosphate, because here that ATP convert into the ADP, that inorganic phosphate which is produces here. This inorganic phosphate combines with this Rubisco biphosphate. Okay, so this is the C3 pathway. Okay, in this C3 pathway, so that glucose molecule is produces. That glucose is synthesized by the various biochemical reaction. Okay, so in this the first stable compound, always remember this one. In the C3 cycle, whatever the first stable compound is produces, so that first stable compound having the 3 carbon compounds. That's why this cycle is known as the C3 pathway. Okay, and here the Rubisco biphosphate combines with this carbon dioxide. So there is particular enzyme is present, that enzyme which is known as the Rubisco biphosphate carboxylase enzyme. So in presence of this enzyme, this reaction takes place into the stroma. Because at that time the concentration of carbon dioxide is high, so that's why the Rubisco biphosphate combines with the oxygen. Instead of oxygen, it combines with the carbon dioxide. So this is about the C3 cycle. And in those plants, these C3 pathway takes place. So that plants are known as the C3 plants.
Thanks for watching this video. Please like, comment and share this video, and please subscribe my channel. My channel name is Prapti Banjare. Thank you.